If I can't carry it for you, Mr. Frodo, I'll just carry you. I love Samwise.
Hey, welcome to the Ministry Mix podcast, where we're bringing you real conversations for the souls and strategies of ministry leaders. I'm Phil Gifford, and I'm joined by my co-host, Richard Pope.
Wah, wah, wah.
Whether you're a seasoned pastor or ministry leader or just stepping into leadership for the first time, we are here to have conversations where we have stories, insights, and practical tips to help you lead strategically while caring for your souls. Each episode will dive into topics that matter to your mission, your calling, and your own personal growth. This episode, we are talking about discouragement. The reality is, discouragement is hard and present in ministry leaders' lives. Wouldn't you say, Richard?
Yeah. Discouragement's going to come. If you're in ministry, you're going to be discouraged. Honestly, if you're a person, you're going to battle discouragement. But I feel like for those in ministry, not just pastors, but ministry leaders, there's a specially bad type of discouragement. If you realize the gravity of what we're called to do and what God allows us to do, it's not like you're just pushing paper. You know what I mean? You're dealing with people's eternities, the souls of those in your city. I know me, and just sharing this vulnerably, I feel like we've created a podcast where we can do that. I battle depression, so I already lean in towards that kind of negative darkness, and I often find myself discouraged. Yeah,
you seem to. I don't. Hopefully, it's not getting too like it's easy to pop in, into discouragement, but by God's grace, it's like it seems temporary. Like you have moments of discouragement or days of discouragement, but
6 p.m.
6 p.m.
I'm just kidding. Every night at 6 p.m. I'm kidding.
Is that why it goes?
I wish it was that predictable.
Well, I do think what you said is so key, that ministry itself, whether you're a pastor or a ministry leader, we're dealing with heavy things, right, with eternal consequences, and it's easy to be discouraged. It's not like we went, we're working at a restaurant and we come home and we're just like, well, I did my best.
Yeah.
Like there's a weightiness here, and when things aren't going well, and I think even the spiritual dimension of here, Satan loves discouraged ministry leaders because it slows down the effectiveness of the ministry.
I think Satan's primary ministry to the ministry leader is discouragement.
Yeah.
That's what he brings you.
So Merry Christmas. So discouragement. So I hope you see it's okay. Like, I just don't want to say it's okay to be discouraged. It's okay to experience discouragement because you're not alone.
It's normal.
It's normal. That's a great way to say it. It's normal to experience discouragement. It's okay to talk about it.
100%.
Because there's a fear in pastors.
To talk about it.
There's a fear for pastors and ministry leaders that if I'm discouraged or depressed, then there must be something wrong with my faith.
Right.
And we don't want you to walk away that like this discouragement is a normal experience.
Completely normal. Hey, so we have 4 rhythms, and we're going to use that word rhythms kind of loosely, that we're going to share. And these are to help you deal with discouragement. The first one is this: gather intentionally. One of the mistakes that a lot of ministry leaders and really just Christians, people in general, make is the harder life gets, the more they isolate. Gathering is not just, something we do as the church. It is the church. We're the gathered community, the ecclesia. I always butcher that word, but we're the gathered community of God's people. But the reason I use that word intentionally is because a lot of times for me, and maybe this is just me, but I feel like maybe Phil even battles with us. When we're going through hard times, it's really easy to just commiserate and just get around other people who are going to accept that. Or it can be really easy to just go full dive into our people. Yeah. When I'm discouraged, listen, I love my church. I love the people of Canvas, but pastors have this unique role where we're not just living lives, we're also carrying other people and their mess. And if you're a more empathetic person, I feel like you might wear this more, but don't just gather with your church. Don't just gather with other disgruntled ministry leaders. Gather with people who will pick you up and carry you when you need it. There's a scene in Lord of the Rings. I didn't know if I was going to say this or not, but I am. I talked about it earlier.
Yeah, you did.
There's this moment, if you know the books, then you'll know this or if you know the movies, but there's this moment where Frodo is trying to take the ring into Mordor and get rid of evil, basically. And his friend Sam is with him. And Frodo is being corrupted by the ring. The ring's discouraging him. It's dark. It's gloomy. He falls down. And there's this moment. They're crawling up a volcano. The hobbits are 3 feet, 6 inches. I know that exactly. That's kind of scary, but and Sam picks up Frodo and he says, I might not be able to carry it for you, Mr. Frodo, but I can carry you. You need to gather with people who might not be able to carry your burden, but will help you walk, who will help carry you. Yeah. And that's been enriching in my own life.
That's the intentionality, is find those people who will carry you and be that person
Yes.
carry someone else as well. I would say, like I said, being discouraged is normal and it's not inherently wrong. Like
Right.
you will be discouraged, but we can respond.
Congratulations.
We can respond. Yeah. This is the positive vibe. No, it's a normal experience to be discouraged, but we can respond wrongly when we're
100%.
discouraged. And one of the intentional ways that we can be pushed in discouragement is that isolation.
Yeah.
I think probably based on your personality, you'll know where your temptations are.
100%.
But if you are that person to be drawn toward isolation and discouragement, like I just want to be alone. And there may be a time where that's okay.
Yeah.
Like
a time.
but
not a life.
A moment. Yeah.
Right.
Tonight, I just need some quiet. I need to unplug. I need to
sit by a fire pit.
Yeah.
Watch the stars.
That is intentionality there.
Right.
But I do think that needs to be a season or a moment.
Yeah.
A time. You need people to lift your eyes beyond that. Gather intentionally.
And one of the reasons that we're using the word rhythm, I want to clarify that. That's a word I use a lot in my church. A rhythm is not always going to happen at the same time, the same way. But when you build rhythms into your life, this is what I tell our church, what you're doing is creating a cyclical time. So like you build in gathering intentionally. So when you do get discouraged, it's Tuesday night. I play a real example. I play Fortnite with Phil on Tuesday nights.
I got to carry you that way too. Just like saying,
recently,
I'll
bro.
carry you.
Not recently.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like my 40-year-old reflexes are catching up, and you're getting better and better. Like I used to be way better than you.
Yeah, not anymore, bro.
That's right.
We're at least equal. But
I'll take that.
But I know that I have that time with Phil where we're going to play Fortnite. And I know that sounds, we talked about Fortnite way too much on this podcast, but
It's our podcast.
But what I'll say, get off, it's ours. But what I will say is like, I know that I have that. So there's really been times where I've had a rough day. I was like, I can't wait to tell Phil about this later. Because I built into my life.
Yep.
I don't have to reach out to you and say, hey, can we hang out tonight? I already built
have
in
a rhythm.
Correct. Build in intentional gatherings with friends who will lift you up, but also friends who will call you out sometimes.
Yeah, I
which
will.
you have.
It's like, dude, stop being immature.
Count.
Count what?
Exactly. I've called you out too. Count how many people come to your church on a Sunday.
But I think you bring up a key point. If you want this to be a rhythm, don't start when you're discouraged. Start when you're in a healthier moment.
It's like taking multivitamins because you get diagnosed with cancer.
Yep. I normally
Which I did.
We treat dude, okay. Have you tried taking communion though?
That's a story we should tell.
Yeah,
sometime.
we should tell that. Sorry. Richard's been giving lots of bad theological advice throughout his cancer experience. But all right, we're gonna stay on focus. We've recorded a bunch of these today. We're gonna lock this in. But what I was saying is we treat community like the emergency pills.
Yep.
You know those emergency Vita gummies?
Yep.
Like you start feeling it sick, you take a little bit of
Airborne, same idea.
That's exactly what I mean. You take an Airborne and hopefully it'll give you a little infusion. But I actually think it needs to be like a vitamin that we lean into even more during those times of discouragement. So that rhythm should be there.
Yeah. The second one is dig deeply. And this one, when I say so fun fact, these 4 came from a sermon I've preached.
Okay. Yeah. That's why I'm like, I don't know what we're talking about. You have to explain that to me.
Yeah. So dig deeply. What I mean by that, you've heard like the idea like pick up your lip, go to war, dig deep. Yep. Think about a coach yelling over you. To some degree, and this is going to probably rub the self-help culture that's creeping into Christianity the wrong way. To some degree, just not necessarily suck it up, but like get up. Right? I'll never say suck it up. It's okay to struggle. It's okay to be discouraged. But like you can't not preach on Sunday. If you have, and sometimes you can, if you can have another pastor preach. But I was serving at a church. We actually talked to one of our episodes, and the pastor said, "I'm not in a season of preaching." What he was really saying is, "I'm discouraged because our church isn't growing anymore."
But he didn't have language to articulate that,
right? So he just kind of just laid in the dirt. Here's what I'd say: it is okay to struggle. It is okay to be discouraged. It is at some point though. The rubber has to meet the road.
You've got to do something. And
when I say dig deeply, there's 2 things that you need to do that well. One, dig into the right source, right, which is the Lord, word, encouragement, prayer. So I'm not saying just get up and pretend it didn't happen, but I'm saying don't just lay there groveling. I love that image. Elijah's like, just kill me. It'd be better to die. And the Lord tells him to take a nap and makes him a cake.
Yep. It's my favorite passage. One of my favorite passages.
Same. The Lord provided for him.
Yep.
Right. So like dig deeply of the Lord's grace, kindness, mercy, and provision in your life. but then get up. The second thing that I think is super pivotal in this is know where you're going. I heard once, and I think it was Pete Scazzaro said this, that discouragement has the unique ability to not just put us down, but to put us sideways. In other words, discouragement is disorienting. A lot of times when we get discouraged, we'll overreact in the wrong direction.
That's good.
The reason I put dig deeply, that language, I used to play football, middle school football. Everyone played football once in their life.
I never played football.
A loser.
Soccer.
Band kid. But when you get hit and you get tackled, you don't just lay there. At some point, you get up.
You get up and get back in.
And you go in the right direction. Right? So dig deeply. At some point, you can be discouraged. You can walk into glory, bloody and beaten and bruised, but get up at some point.
No, I think that's good. And it's like, there's still things that you need to do, whether you're discouraged or not. Like, correct. Especially like, I got my kids, I can't be like, I'm not going to parent you today because I'm discouraged.
Correct.
Like, I've got to still help them do like, I'm responsible for them. I'm in charge of them. I'm overseeing like their lives. I can't just be like, all right, you're on your own today because dad's discouraged.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what God's called me to do. Like, at some point your calling has to take precedence over your momentary feelings.
And this light and momentary affliction is creating for us, right? Paul writes about this. Remember, these are rhythms though. So I'm not saying that you should only dig deeply when the discouragement comes.
Yeah.
You should have a regular rhythm in your life of deeply being in God's word. I would just say this, deeply enjoying the provision of God. Right? So I think we often don't enjoy I'm going to sound like a hedonist for a minute. Maybe Christian hedonism, John Piper.
There you go.
I think we often don't enjoy what God's given us enough. Get into the regular practice of digging deep into God's word and greatly appreciating the things he's given you. I have a fire pit in my front yard now. I've talked about it literally, I think just like 5 minutes ago. And one of my favorite things in the world is to sit out at that fire with my wife. I make a regular rhythm of doing that. Like that's a joy I have. And then when discouragement comes, I'm like, you know what?
If you get into the routine like that you're just used to, it's like wake up, take a shower, put some new clothes on, like do a task that you would do. I know this isn't a rhythm, but I do find when I'm discouraged, like you mentioned, discouragement and just disorienting. Sometimes I have, one of the things I dig deep is I have these moments of my day where I do long-term planning. I've got to get down and I got to whiteboard what's the things I've got to do to help me take those next steps forward. So you just got to put the big boy pants on and go.
I love that. The third one is laugh freely.
Okay.
I would say laugh freely in the appropriate company, but I think oftentimes we take ourselves way too serious. Discouragement often
we take ourselves too serious.
Everybody does.
Yeah.
I mean, we're sitting here pretending we're podcasters. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. You've been listening, so you're the one pretending. But no. But like, man, when you live,
our millions of subscribers would agree otherwise.
Our sponsors, Nike. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I love Nike. But hey, here's the thing: when you take yourself super seriously, you're never going to be satisfied. Right? Like if you live your life, ministry leader, thinking you're the best thing that's ever happened to your city, I just mean this honestly, if you live your life like that, every time you see a church doing better, bigger, or more online, you're going to be discouraged. But if you just learn to be like, this is just who I am, I am awkwardly content in my normalcy.
Yeah.
Like I just, and laugh and have fun. Learn to laugh at yourselves. When I talk to ministry leaders, especially church planters in the lane of work I do outside of my church who are discouraged, it almost always is rooted to some sort of like deeply unmet expectation. Like I thought I was gonna have 1,000 people, bro. You can barely preach, and like 60 people love you, and you're not pastoring 60 people because you wish you had 1,000.
Right.
So learn to laugh. Be like, man, I'm an awkward pastor of a small church or a normal size church or a medium church. Like, just be okay with who you are. And I think part of that is revealed in not a self-deprecating hatred of self, but in this like just aggressive acceptance of your averageness.
People laugh when they're comfortable.
Yeah.
And like when you're in a situation where you're not comfortable, you're less likely to laugh.
100%.
When you're comfortable with who you are and the people you're around, there's that freedom to just laugh, whether it's at yourself or at the situation
100%.
or just together.
Yeah.
Laughter is good medicine. I was just thinking about Proverbs. I scribbled this in my notes. Proverbs 17:21. A cheerful heart is good medicine, but the crushed spirit dries up the bones. Like,
Wow.
There's a, you know what I mean? Like there is a medicine there, a healthiness that comes from just laughter and joy. And so I found a quote. I don't even, this is not original to me. I just found it online, but a joyful heart isn't just a happy heart. It's a resilient heart.
Wow.
Like when you're able to laugh about something, you can press through. So that how is that a rhythm though? Help me understand that a little
Laughing
bit.
freely.
Yeah.
Just regularly doing it. Dude, this sounds so weird.
Like on Fortnite.
Well, but no, that's a good example of it. Like, we play Fortnite. People by now know that probably too much.
Yeah, they do.
If you just started listening to this
Hey, I got
episode,
one complaint is everyone's like, there was a lot of Fortnite in that episode.
we don't care.
Yeah.
Suck it up, cupcakes.
That's right. It's our podcast.
Yeah. We even modeled the way our parts and seasons works. Chapter 1, season 1.
There we go.
We literally modeled kind of how we do our seasons off of Fortnite. Fun fact. Here's the thing though. Create room in your life for it.
Yeah.
If you're always going and always busy and always in a high speed moment, you're not going to laugh. There's this book. There's some weird theology in it, but it's been encouraging in my life. It's called The 3 Mile an Hour God. It's like Ruthless Elimination of Hurry before Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. He argues that Jesus walked 3 miles an hour. So that's the speed of love. Slow, intentional, methodical. Create room in your life to not be the boss. Create room in your life to not be in charge. One thing that's helped me, so this is a rhythm. This is how I make it a rhythm. I at least once a week get lunch with someone on my staff. I'm the lead pastor. I have 5 people that work for me, paid, like staff members. And at least once a week, I just sit with them and we don't talk about work. We laugh, we hang out, we sit at my fire pit, we eat cheeseburgers. Wendy's had a Krabby Patty burger. We did that.
Okay.
And in those moments, I've realized how aggressively normal I am. It's really easy to feel like you're the boss and the leader when you're whiteboarding or you're teaching or you're coaching or you're planning. But when we're just sitting there and I have ketchup on my face in front of my kid's pastor, I'm like, I'm very average. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't take my staff to Fogo de Chao for fun lunches. I go to Wendy's. Like those regular slowed down moments of just relationship though, I think is what breeds that. The freedom.
Yeah, because you can't laugh when you're just grinding.
Yeah.
And part of this, one of the responses.
Unless you're a comedian.
Well, one of the responses is, we mentioned this already, in discouragement, it's to like check out.
Right.
The other response, on the flip side of that, is to overwork.
Yeah.
And neither of them are going to get to the soul care that you need in discouragement.
So one other way to make this a rhythm is to do something you're bad at. I read once that every pastor, if they want to continue to grow, they should be learning one new thing, and it like not related to the Bible. So go be 60 and go take guitar lessons, or go sign up for boxing classes as 80-pound dude. Like do something that's going to be challenging for you. If you, like, for me, I love mixed martial arts. You know what makes me remember that I'm like a super normal person and I'm not that cool? Getting punched in the freaking face by a guy twice my size. Just find opportunities to grow. And in those growth moments, it'll also remind you of your absolute averageness. I think knowing your average is great.
Yeah.
I think this desire to always be better is good. I think growth is good. But man, you're probably, if you're like me and like Phil, you're going to be an average person doing average ministry for an extraordinary God. And that's good enough. Yeah.
So laugh freely. Don't take yourself too seriously and build your identity on that.
Yeah. Find ways to grow and realize that you suck at things. If you're the best at everything you do, you're not actually growing and you're going to be really uptight.
Yeah.
Because no one will ever meet your expectations.
Somebody, this is probably not connected to discouragement, but I think it was Clint Clifton who told me this quote by somebody else, is that everything worth doing is worth doing poorly at first.
Amen.
So
I've heard that quote.
Yeah,
not from Clint.
I don't know who said it, but
yeah.
it's so it's like, be willing to put yourself out there, and it's good for discouragement. It's good for laughing at yourself when you try to play an instrument and it's like sounds really bad. Like just have fun.
Yeah, I would agree. Hey, the fourth one is this, and I'm gonna share it, but then also point out a couple ways me and Phil do that really quickly. Rest regularly. Just in the last day, if you've listened to episodes, we batch record. Phil talked about taking a nap almost every day right around this time.
Yes, that's my favorite time of day, like around 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock.
So it's a rhythm.
It is.
It's built in.
Not always a nap, but like I get up pretty early. I get up at like usually 5ish or so. Start work right away. Yeah.
I get up at like 9 a.m. 10 a.m.
That's why whenever Rich was like, hey, you want to hang out tonight at 11? I'm like, no, I want to be asleep at 11. But like, I'll normally eat lunch and I'll push really hard through the morning. I'll eat lunch, and then like around 1 o'clock, I'll just kind of lay down and I'll read some. I'll listen to an audiobook for like 20, 30 minutes, nothing long. And then I'll get up and do another round of fun stuff. But
yeah.
It's a rhythm.
Right. It's something you do to relieve pressure. Think about your life as a pressure valve. You have to let some pressure out. And if you don't, you're going to blow. Mine is, I'm a little bit more aggressive here. And depending on your theological convictions and et cetera, you could call me anything. I'm not a Seventh-day Adventist, but I'm pretty aggressive about the Sabbath. when you look at the Old Testament in Genesis, there's 3 things that God blesses: animals to multiply, Adam and Eve to multiply, and then he blesses the Sabbath. Because I think the Sabbath is life-giving. I'm not going to go as far as saying you have to have a 24-hour period. Like I think there's freedom in the new covenant of what this looks like. But I do think
our wiring hasn't changed.
Correct. So your liberties have changed under the new covenant. Like I don't think you're going to go to hell for not taking the Sabbath. I do think that there's freedom in Christ. I do think that you have some room there. But man, the Sabbath is the only of the 10 commandments we brag about breaking.
Mm-hmm.
We love talking about how hard we work.
We wonder why we're discouraged.
Right. So man, maybe for you it's 16 hours or 12 hours, but get a consistent, regular period of rest. And people will say, one of the things I work on with my church, because we're every year we do a series on healthy souls. Like that really is one of the things that we really feel a burden for us to give people in our community healthy spirituality. One of the things that I've been battling with my people is, hey, the Sabbath is not an opportunity for you to do less work, to do more recreation. The Sabbath is an opportunity for you to do less work, to focus more on grace and goodness in Jesus. So like if your Sabbath looks like you not working and playing video games all day, you're not actually Sabbathing in the biblical sense. You can play video games on your Sabbath, but if your Sabbath isn't this rooting time where you orient your life back around the gospel, it's like, it's like the Sabbath when you're going on a long journey, every now and then you pull out your compass to make sure you're still going north. That's the Sabbath. I'm going to make sure I'm still walking towards Jesus, pointing towards Jesus, be in a regular rhythm of reading your Bible daily. But for me, that weekly, and I actually miss it sometimes too.
It's not Sundays for you, is it? You work so long on Sundays.
I work like 16 hours every Sunday.
Yeah.
But typically mine's Friday into Saturday. So like Friday afternoon and evening into Saturday at like 2 or 3. So mine's like a 24-hour period, but it's not wake up to bed. Yeah. It's a night with my wife, and then it's a day of just doing what I love. It charges me up for church, and yours might be Monday or Wednesday or Thursday. You might have to break yours up. I'm not necessarily getting into the what as much as, or the how.
Yeah, I don't like we need to be legalistic here.
No, right? I'm not John Mark Comer. I'm not I'm not hiding in your curtains, making sure you're Sabbathing once a week. I love Comer, but I had to make that joke. But I will say in his book, Resignation in a Hurry, he talks about the Sabbath is a life-giving thing that we've decided we don't need, and we wonder why we're exhausted.
Yeah.
So it might be a Sabbath, it might be a nap, it might be something in between, it might be a date night with your wife, all things. I think you should do all 3.
That rhythm.
You have to have a rhythm of rest. And if you don't, when you burn out, you're going to blame everybody and everything, but it's honestly your lack of rest.
And how you rest. You already mentioned this, like, Pam actually told me this, and she read it someplace. My wife, Pam, said that one of the ways you rest is if you are a worker with your hands, like if your normal vocation is construction or physical labor, find rest in like the video games or or reading a book. That's or good. Something with your mind, right? Like do something like read a book, that sort of stuff. But if you're like an intellectual more work, like more, and I don't want to like just overly divide it, because obviously there's intellectual and physical stuff all across the board.
Sure.
But like a lot of our work as pastors is more
communal,
intellectual. And so so I found a lot of rest in 2 hours of yard work. Wow. And I don't like yard work, but I'll put some headphones on, listen to some music, and just like work, either go for a bike ride or work in my yard, but like some physicality, some home projects. Well, you would not think that like doing a home project would feed your soul, but that change of pace, rest is not necessarily idleness.
I agree.
And so find what strengthens, like sometimes I think there is a sense of knowing who you are. What does rest look like to you? Because the whole point is to focus back on God. Yeah. And I would say one of the reasons why we rest is not because we finish our work, but it's because God calls us to find peace in Him even when our work's unfinished. And so building that rhythm in to rest in Him. I'm bad at this. So like if Pam listens, if my wife listens to this podcast, she's going to go, yeah, you're preaching to yourself. But I have gotten better where Saturdays have typically been a day for rest for me, and Sunday afternoons. I've slowed down most Sunday afternoons, like adding equipment. So like where you still working Sunday, I'm like after church, get home after lunch, I'm done.
We play Fortnite a lot on Sunday nights, and it's typically like 9 p.m.
Yeah.
And that's when I'm done working for the day.
And that's where I'm just like waking up from my nap going, I'm feeling rested. Let's play. So build that rhythm in there for rest. But I think those 4 things are so good for our rhythms: is gather intentionally, dig deeply, laugh freely, and rest regularly. I'm reminded here of Psalm 23 that that when it's Psalm 23 verses 2 and 3, it talks about how God he makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores or refreshes my soul. And that's what we need in our discouragement. We need those moments where we're lying down by still waters. He's providing us in green pastures, and he's restoring our souls. So,
Amen.
So, hey, as you, ministry leader, pastor, as you're listening to this, which one of those rhythms do you think you need to do? Here's some questions just to think about. Like, which one of those 4 do you do well right now? But also, which one of those 4 might you need to be doing in your life? So think about those things, and think about some small steps you can take toward those rhythms in your life now. Maybe you're discouraged, maybe you're not, but build those rhythms into your soul. You want to add anything before we wrap this thing up, Richard? This is your passion.
Discouragement's coming.
Yeah,
it's like I've never seen Game of Thrones or read it because I'm a Christian, but if you've seen the commercials, winter is coming. Listen, discouragement's coming, and if you're not ready, you're gonna freeze. Buy the coat before the snow comes.
There you go. Yeah, be proactive.
Yeah, not reactive.
Not reactive. Well, hey, I hope this Ministry Mix episode has been encouraging to you. And if you found values in today's discussion, be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you don't want to miss any of our episodes. We'd love it if you take a minute to review and give us some feedback so we can help get this podcast out to other leaders just like you. If you got questions or topics you'd love us to discuss and have a conversation about, be sure to connect with us on social media. Let us know. Until next time, keep leading with purpose and caring for your soul as you lead.
Bye!